98.5 The Sports Hub. I'm Joe Murray. We got you for the next 30 minutes. And then we'll hand things over to Ryan Johnson and Bob Beers on the call tonight for the Bees, who take on St. Louis. Oh, and I guess that's why they call it the Blues. Oh, bad memories of the Blues. Oh, it just popped in my head. I'm still bitter about that one. I just mentioned it to Kevin Maggiore, and he's shaking his head. So he knows what it feels like. And, well, we'll maybe, you know what? Maybe we'll revisit that if we really want to later, maybe. But we're here, again, for 30 minutes. You can try to call in, but I'm just going to give you take for the rest of the way here. And I got a lot on the table here. First off, last night we were live at Sylvan Street Grill in Peabody, so appreciate everybody that came out for that. It was a good show. Thanks for Skaz for keeping me in line all night, because I could have just went right off the rails on the brickle pie all night long if you really wanted me to get into it. But I didn't get into the weeds of the Belichick-Kraft Hall of Fame stuff, and I wanted to start there tonight because I do want to get into some Thursday night football. Big game tonight, Cowboys and Lions. This is a good one. I'm ready for this one. And essentially, whoever loses this game might be out of the playoffs. So we'll get into that one. Giannis to the Celtics, in or out? In or out? This is a big one here. The Giannis stuff is he's a polarizing figure, but I'm out. I'll just leave it at that. So I'm curious what you guys think about it. And Monty's back. Jim Montgomery spoke about his time in Boston yesterday. I'll catch you up on all that coming up in a bit, and it's a much needed win tonight for the Bees. So that's the lineup there. And what will you be watching this weekend for the Patriots? What game are you truly interested in? What teams are you rooting for and against? We'll get into all that here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. You can also follow us on YouTube as well. Just search 98.5 The Sports Hub. All right, Belichick-Kraft Hall of Fame. Clearly, both should be in there. The take is this, and the opening take presented by Super Service today, Massachusetts' #1 provider for your service, and they're doing their winter quality check right now. You can visit superservicetoday.com. Robert Kraft is the one that should be voted in. He's the one that should be voted in. I know if we sat here and said, hey, who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? Bill Belichick, no doubt about it. Whether it's first time, second time, third ballot, whatever, he's going to the Hall of Fame. But when it comes to Robert Kraft, it's not so sure. Remember, he's tried to, have a campaign for this. He's been edging for this for a long time. A long time. This is his time. Bill Belichick's going to the Hall of Fame soon. And the new rule that put him in place put him in this situation. But when it comes to voting Kraft or Belichick, it's the Blue Ribbon Committee, whatever that is. You got to vote Kraft. This might be one of the only times he actually can be voted in. Because it will happen again next year. Does he get in? And then who's on the ballot that year? If you had a vote, the vote should be Robert Kraft. And I'm actually curious what you people think about that. And what I mean by you people is this. Bill Belichick deservingly, absolutely clear-cut Hall of Famer. If this was you can only have one, it's Bill Belichick. But in this situation, it's 3 out of 5. You need 80% of the vote. I think the voters should vote for Robert Kraft. Just think of it on the whole entire side of Kraft. Bought the team, kept them here, inherited Bill Parcells. They went to a Super Bowl, brings in Pete Carroll, brings in Bill Belichick. They find Tom Brady. They win 6 Super Bowls. They went to basically every other year going to the Super Bowl during Tom Brady's career. Not to mention, big part of the collective bargaining agreement. Kind of got that thing back on track. I mentioned the 3 Hall of Fame coaches as well. The multiple Hall of Fame players that came along with it. And now the next run, hiring Mike Vrabel, making the decision to cut bait, owning a mistake, spending money in the offseason, now has the next quarterback of the future. It's Hall of Fame worthy right there. But when it comes to your vote, I'm curious who would it be. Mine would be Kraft because Belichick will get in some other time, deservingly so. But how interesting would it be if it's Belichick and Kraft in at the same time with Roger Craig? You could put that, Craig with the Bill Walsh side versus the Belichick side. That'll be great. But the pettiness between both of them, spending a weekend together, it would be beautiful. But if you had just one, to me, it's Robert Kraft. Also, we have Thursday night football tonight. And I wanted to kind of get into this because it's such a good weekend for the Patriots being on the bye that there's a lot of games you can watch. Obviously, the Bills are on deck. The Bengals are on the road at Buffalo. Their defense has been improved, and Joe Burrow has turned into, big-time Joe. The other games to watch, Colts-Jaguars. It's a big one. Steelers-Ravens. The Patriots take on the Ravens in essentially 2 weeks. So that's what. Broncos-Raiders is another. Broncos now have to go on the road to take on the Raiders. And then Sunday night, Chiefs-Texans. The game I care about the most is Chiefs-Texans. My feeling is the Patriots, whether they go 2-2, 3-1, 4-0, the rest of the way, they're going to be the top seed. You got to think about those teams that are on the bottom or could be near the bottom or surprise win in the first round. The Texans have that defense. They've won multiple games in a row. C.J. Stroud actually played pretty well in the previous game. But Nico Collins is a problem. The Chiefs are desperate. They're 5-1 at home. They're hanging on for dear life. I think if the Texans get knocked down and the Chiefs get bumped up, I think it sets up some games in the future for the Broncos. The Broncos should beat the Raiders, but the last time they met, it was a 10-7 win for Denver. Can the Steelers hang around? Do the Ravens and Lamar Jackson get back on track, or is there really a problem there? Colts, Jaguars? I think Jaguars? I don't know. There's a lot to watch this weekend. My eyes are on Buffalo. Did Buffalo get it going after last week's win? Can the Bengals continue to stop the run? That's what I'm looking at. But tonight's Thursday night football, Cowboys and Lions. The line is now moved to 3.5 for the Lions. These two teams play on Thanksgiving Day every year. They don't generally play the next game. It's happened a couple of times. But my angle tonight is, how do these two teams play after the Thanksgiving game? The Lions are perfect against the spread after playing on Thanksgiving Day. And I'll tell you this, the Lions off a loss, Dan Campbell, 14-1, outstanding. The flip side of it for the Cowboys is they've won multiple games in a row now. They crush as underdogs. And this year, they're 8-4 to the over. This game screams over to me. 55.5 is the number. I want to take a stab on the Cowboys 3.5, 4, something to that degree. But historically, the Lions in this spot, after playing on Thanksgiving Day at home and off a loss, it's all lining up for the Lions. But let's not forget, an MVP candidate is starting to come out in Dak Prescott. Do I think he's an MVP? No, but odds makers do. Right now, he is third in the MVP ratings right now when it comes to betting odds. It's a good one tonight. This should be a really good weekend of football. And I'm curious what game you're all looking at as most important when it's relevant to the Patriots. To me, it's Texans-Chiefs because I want to look at the bottom of the AFC playoff picture. And I think if those two get in, that's where they'll be, and a potential candidate for the New England Patriots. So we'll leave it there at 617-779-0985. I had some thoughts on Giannis to the Celtics, or potentially where Giannis could end up. And Jim Montgomery makes his return to Boston. He spoke on it. I'll tell you what that is, and I'll look at the lines for the Bruins and St. Louis Blues. We have all that until 6:30. I'm Joe Murray. You're listening to 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.
right, back here on 98.5 The Sports. I'm Joe Murray. We got another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll hand things over to Boston Bruins hockey. Ryan Johnston. Bob Beers, a much-needed win for the Bees tonight. I'll break it down. I'll tell you what the morning skate lines were coming up in a bit. And Jim Montgomery spoke, which I got a chuckle out of this one. So we'll let you hear that coming up in a bit. But started with the Kraft Belichick Hall of Fame stuff. If you had a vote, it's got to be Kraft. Belichick's getting in no matter what. The vote needs to be Kraft. This might be one of the only times he can actually get in. He's been campaigning for it, and he deserves it. Now, if you're going to do Belichick versus Kraft, it's Belichick. I'm going to leave it at that. But this time, if you're a voter, I'm telling you, it's Robert Kraft. Also, I brought up the games from the weekend and tonight's game. I already got people asking me, is Amon St. Brown playing tonight? He's questionable. So he was a huge loss for the Lions, by the way. I'm leaning still the trend of the Lions winning in the spot. The Cowboys have been something lately, though. George Pickens on that slant, and nobody could stop it. Anytime touchdown tonight, maybe George Pickens? Yeah, we'll look that up in a little bit. Also, I gave out the games this weekend. I said I know nothing about the Jags and the Colts, and who checks in but Kendra Middleton to tell me Colts W. So, you know what? I'm going to take her word on it, and you can hear her show every Saturday here. Time is that show now? 8 o'clock. I used to wake up real early to do that show. Real early. But you can listen to Kendra. She'll have all the picks all weekend long here on the Sports Hub. Giannis Antetokounmpo. We talked about this last night, Skaz and I. I've talked to many people about this. People who know basketball, they want Giannis. People around the league want Giannis. Take whoever it is, Jaylen Brown, whatever. Giannis to the Celtics. Think about it for a second. It probably has to be Jaylen Brown in the deal. Now, could you match money up Simons and White and Pritchard and picks and do it? You could. You could. But the take is, you're going to have a lot of guys making a lot of money. You mean to tell me they're going to pay Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Giannis $50 million? And Giannis's contract, he's due to a max extension worth close to $70 million. There's no way the Celtics would do that. No way. If they just cut all the money, Holiday, Porzingis, you name them, all of them. Cornette, for that matter, throw them in there. And now you want to bring in Giannis? Out. Oh, here's another thing on Giannis. For years, if an NBA player said, I want to play there, generally teams never had the control. They had to send them to where they wanted to go. With everything that's happening in the league, there probably isn't going to be dynasties anymore with the salary cap. Like, you can look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? They're they're the best team in the NBA. They're unbeatable at this point. But next year, their salary cap is going to go up to $250 million, and then Sam Presti's going to have to sell some pieces off. I'd keep them as a sleeper in this, because there's a lot of assets on that team. But you add Giannis with SGA, whew! Not to mention the San Antonio Spurs and Victor Wembanyama. The last thing on Giannis, hurt or strained his calf last night. You know what the trend of strained calves are, right? Achilles. I'm not going there. Doc Rivers ruled it out, but do you believe anything he says? So, I'm out on Giannis hard. Like, not even look at it. But do you know how many people want Giannis over a Jaylen Brown? I have a message for the Celtics, Mazzulla, and Brad Stevens in ownership. The way that Jaylen Brown's been playing, the way he's been outspoken about his feelings in Boston about being traded or booed on draft night, this might be a good time to get to him and say, you're not involved in a trade. We're not trading you for Giannis. They don't have to do that. It's a business. I would just say he clearly has shown some loyalty, right? Tracy McGrady told him, don't leave, stay. This would be a good time for management to say, hey, man, we believe in you, not Giannis. I hope that message is sent, and maybe that's another reason for the turnaround of late. People are buying into Jaylen Brown and what he's doing on the court. To the ice we go, and Jim Montgomery making his return. But